I'm Shane Nyland, and my co host is Blake Musser. And these stories you're about to hear are from Weapons Company, 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, 1st Marine Division, about the events surrounding and directly from the mouths of the people who were in Ramadi 2004. All right, man. Let's tell everybody who you are.
All right. So I'm Andrew Kern. I was in MAP 1, Weapons Company 2-4. I was a TFC, and then I got promoted to Lance Corporal during the 2004 Ramadi deployments.
Nice. And was that a combat promotion, or were you just up and due?
I was just up and due.
Nice.
That was it.
Yeah. All right. Well, wherever you want to start, man. You want to start from the beginning, or you want to start with something else?
Yeah, I'll start with the beginning for me. So I was one of those first boot drops that you guys got after you returned from Oki. I got to San Mateo around the time of the Marine Corps birthday. I remember that we had the Marine Corps birthday, like I think it was like right before we finished SOI. And I distinctly remember that the youngest Marine present when we were at the SOI Marine Corps birthday was Marcus Cherry, who went to Echo Company and who was killed on April 6th. So I remember that the most, about kind of coming over to you guys. And I think you guys were still, maybe you had just come back from Nevada or something like that. I feel like when we checked into the unit around mid-November, like a lot of the guys were gone, which was great because, you know, like coming on that bus over SOI, you know, over the hill from SOI over to 5th Marines, like, you know, you're just like on that, you're like you're scared, you know, you're like, all right, we're going to basically prison. We're gonna get hazed pretty bad. And I know I heard somebody, like when we were pulling into San Mateo, someone was like, I heard somebody go fresh fish. I swear. And so you know, we checked in. I think who was in my boot drop? I know Nick Kelly was there. You guys already had him on the podcast. Let's see, Radsky and Homewood from MAP 2 were with me. Gentile also was there. I think Daniels was in my boot drop. So yeah, we were I'm pretty sure we were like at least one of the first boot drops, and so we had a little more time with you guys to kind of prepare and assimilate. When we checked in, it was still like cat platoons.
Yep.
Lieutenant Stevens was my platoon commander for like a couple weeks, I think.
Okay.
I remember Hardin was one of the, you know, NCOs in charge of me. I remember that. MAP 3 was like, they were like some other weird javelin platoon or something. They had these weird trucks that weren't Humvees. They were like Mercedes Benzes. Do you guys remember what those were called?
That's the IFAV platoon. They were called Infantry Fast Attack Vehicles, and they were G wagons. Is exactly what they were, man. They're the Mercedes G wagons, just without all the good stuff. There's some flimsy ass metal panels and basically a Jeep, Mercedes Jeep.
Could you imagine if we'd gone over there with that shit? Oh my god.
No.
Man. Well, I mean, we basically almost did. You know, first with the flimsy doored Humvees, but yeah. So we checked in, and then there was a couple more boot drops after us. I remember that I think Morris and Pepper and Newmeyer, and a few other guys, French came to our platoon. I think a couple weeks after we got there, and I remember like those first months, like from like November, December, January, just doing a lot of stuff for like SASO, stability and support operations. So I remember going to MOUT Town. I remember Sergeant Condi really standing out as like a MOUT guru. He used to say slow is smooth and smooth is fast. I still remember that, which is
Yeah.
kind of a good philosophy for life in general, right? Like,
Yeah.
just if you slow down, everything's better, right?
I still
And
say it to
so
my kids.
it's kids really need to hear it, to be honest, especially when they're doing MOUT. So so it was a lot of that. I think we knew we were going to Iraq. I remember like I remember doing a little bit of like one anecdote stands out where we were on those like kind of bleachers by the basketball courts over by where those
Hmm.
red top barracks were. And I remember uh Corporal at the time, Corporal Harden, later Sergeant Harden, was showing us some like submission stuff for like how to like uh submit a potential insurgent or something, get him on the ground, search him,
Yeah.
flexi cuff him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Hmm.
Homewood was the dummy for that. He was the insurgent, air quotes, and and he got flexi cuffed. But it was like around the time of colors. So like colors came on and you like everybody stood to attention and Homewood had his like hands behind his back. He's like standing there with his hands behind his back. And like I remember hearing other Marines go like, that's just colors, Marine. And he's just like trying to turn around and like, dude, I'm cuffed, man. So that was pretty good. Um, let's see. I I went to let's see. So after like okay, let's say December. I think it was in December that they found Saddam Hussein.
Correct.
And
December.
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah, I remember that they found him. And then so I was like, I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, so what are we even going over there for? Like, is there anything even gonna keep going
Hmm.
on? Like, is there any reason to have like is there any combat even there anymore? Like, so I do remember having that thought because remember, like at the time, it was like the invasion was like less than a year prior, and I
Correct.
remember in SOI having heard about like an insurgency or whisperings of one, but then Saddam got pinched, and then it was like, okay, well, I guess that's over, right? But no, we're still going, and then um and then in January, I was one of the lucky few to get sent to Arabic school. That was um, that was good because you guys went to March Air Force Base, and then me. And I remember Cohen from MAP 2 was at that course, as well as Hersher and a couple others.
Yeah,
Um,
I was there.
were you there too?
Yep.
Okay, that's right. There was
There's
a
like
bunch of
20.
people.
There's like 20 of us.
There was a lot. Yeah, I don't I don't remember like I don't exactly remember who was in my class except for Cohen because I would like carpool with him every day.
I think
Um,
I think there was two classes because
okay,
I think there was two. I think they were taking two or three guys from each platoon, and then
okay,
and then I think they split us into two classes because
okay.
I know one group had like this Moroccan guy, and then I had a guy that was like I think he was like from Egypt if I remember correctly.
The
Um,
Musser guy, because he
yeah,
was excited that your name was Musser
yeah,
in
yeah,
Arabic. Yeah, Egypt in
yeah,
Arabic. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, I had the Moroccan guy, and he was really good at teaching us the Arabic alphabet.
Hmm.
He was very pedagogically efficient at teaching us the letters and the sounds, but
Hmm.
he didn't teach us hardly anything of real use, like as far as like just fixed phrases like stop or I'll shoot
No,
or
right.
pop the hood, things like that, like get on the ground. Um, so I remember like, and his logic was like, okay, well, if you have an Arabic dictionary, you can look up any word and know how to pronounce it, and like, yeah, that makes sense, but we're not really studying Arabic. We just need to
Right.
know the essentials. So it was, yeah, that wasn't. It was an interesting an interesting experience for sure. And when I heard the stories about March Air Force Base, I was like, oh, I definitely dodged a bullet there. Yeah, there was a lot of. I guess it was very cold. Obviously, Shane, you would know more
So
about that.
not only was it cold, they put us in the abandoned officers' housing. So it used to be houses, but they were destroyed. There was no doors, no windows, nothing. And there were a lot of remnants of dead rodents and rodent feces. And so at least two or three people, like again, I don't know what they actually got, but what the corpsmen were calling it was rat shit fever. And like, so to me, that means like hantavirus, which I don't think they got hantavirus, but they had something, and several people got so sick that there was discussion of taking them to a local hospital and all. Like, they never did actually go, but they got IVs and like set aside. It was fucking cold and miserable, and the training was okay-ish. It was an interesting start. Again, I think this is where a lot of things were just 2003, 4. It was the beginning of the war. We didn't know what we were doing. It was the first time they were trying to organize role players. And because so me and Blake, to rewind slightly, we were in Operation Noble Eagle, which is when September 11th happened. There was an operation to get multiple different bases to cover different parts of the United States. And our unit was part of that to protect some portion of the western corridor of the United States. They had role players at that time to try to teach us how to do crowd control, but those were just other Marines who literally would just come out and beat you with sticks. Like, it was not in any way good, but it was mostly guys who had MSG duty experience or fast company experience. And they're like, this is what a riot looks like. And they would just throw rocks at you and hit you with sticks. And like, you had to defend yourself. And that was our training. So
That's motivating.
this was slightly better than that.
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, that's crazy. But like you said though, like nobody knew at the time like what to expect. And I remember I remember hearing like, yeah, there could be riots. Yeah, they could be having rocks come at you and stuff. So I could imagine people thinking that would be good training. Yeah. The hot water went out in the barracks while you guys were at March Air Force Base. So me and Blake suffered quite a bit there as well.
Nice.
With cold showers for the last week. So, I
don't remember that. At that point, I'd become so numb with 2-4 being like just worse than prison that I was like, all right, well, this was just life.
yeah. It's just one hit after another. Yeah, it was only like the last few days, but yeah, terrible. So the Arabic school wasn't, I didn't get a whole lot out of it. I guess you guys didn't get as much out of March Air Force bases either. But I remember doing just a couple of field exercises, kind of getting to know like the senior Marines a bit more. I had in charge of me, I had like Jax and Chico, Harris, Pace, NCOs were like John Anthony, and then Santiago. We had Staff Sergeant Drake. Platoon commander was Crawford. And just kind of getting to know everybody. The Paris Island / Hawaii guys came. I don't exactly remember the month, but I want to say, I mean, they were at March Air Force Base, so it was definitely before then. So yeah, it was not long after March Air Force Base, if I remember correctly, we got on the flight to Jersey. And I've been hearing a lot about the engine failure and liquids leaking out of the plane onto the runway. So that wasn't a planned stop in Jersey on the way to Iraq.
There was definitely a refueling stop that was intentional. The plane was having issues, which is why we stayed there as long as we did. When they fixed whatever issues they fixed, the next subsequent stops, none of those were planned. So, I mean, I think maybe Germany was, I don't know, as a refueling stop, but I
think it was supposed to be East Coast, Germany, Kuwait. That was supposed to be our hop.
Yeah, that makes sense logistically. We had 2 additional stops on top of that. We had whatever we did in Bangor, Maine, is what I was told. I know we were going down over, like, it was over Canada, and they turned around, and to my knowledge, we landed in Canada, but that, I guess I'm wrong. And it was Bangor, Maine, is what somebody else says. So I don't know. Nobody official has corrected me, so I have no idea. But we landed in Maine, and that was when there was things leaking out of the plane multiple times. Finally got that fixed, or they got us a new plane. I don't even remember. Anyway, they fixed it.
It was the same. That one was the same plane.
Yeah. And then they took us to Germany, and that plane they couldn't fix, and they got us a new plane. But when we got to Germany, that's when you looked out on the tarmac, and we had, like, basically just shit out everything on the runway. And there was just fuel and oil and everything. Like, that was it. We were on one engine when we landed, or something like that. That was what we were told. And that was over the Atlantic is when it first started having trouble.
Wow. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, that's very 2-4. That's all news to me. I had no idea. I remember stopping in Jersey for a bit to, like, stretch our legs, because you guys all remember how awful those cargo nets were to sit on for so long.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I remember being in Germany for a bit, and I don't remember how long our plane was there. I don't remember how long 2-4 was there in Germany. But I remember that was the first time I saw, like, an Air Force chow hall, and it was, it was a tad better for sure. And I do remember thinking, like I remember being kind of nervous and excited to be going to Iraq. I was, as a young Marine infantryman, I was excited to be going and, doing the job. And so that was cool. I will remember, I will say a story about being on that terrible cargo plane. The like down the middle, you remember, had, like, the bathrooms were, like, at the front of the plane, and everybody was, like, lined up, like, along the length of the plane on the inside on cargo nets. And the only way to get down there, because everyone was just packed in so tight, like like sardines, you had to get on, like, the center beam of, like, the center aisle where everybody was sitting, like, inboard, and, like, walk, like, balance beam your way, like, down towards the head. And I was balance beaming one time over the Atlantic, and I like slipped, and my rifle cracked right into Colonel Kennedy's head. Not too hard, I guess, but it definitely felt bad that I fell on the colonel there. So I know we were on the colonel's plane.
Nice.
So yeah, and he knows it too. Yeah, I told him that story at the 20-year. So he's equally as unamused. But Colonel. Yeah, so it was quite a ride. And yeah, then we got to Kuwait, and was it Camp Victory? Was that the name of that place in Kuwait?
Yes.
Okay.
On the way,
on
the way in, yeah.
On the way in, yeah. So this is like end of February 2004. I guess we get there.
Right.
So, yeah, and then that place was, man, just an ocean of sand. That's all I remember. That place, like, tons of tents. I think there was a couple of fast food containers or so, like a place where you could maybe get, like, I can't even remember, but I kind of remember there being like an Arby's there or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Sometimes I get, like, that and the 06 deployment mixed up. So definitely correct me if I'm wrong.
I think it was a Burger King, and then whatever generic pizza place the military has. It's not a name brand pizza place.
I was just gonna say it was a pizza joint and a Burger King.
Yeah.
Pizza joint and a Burger King. Just what the troops need. So the place was desolate. I remember doing a lot of letter writing there. Bit of training. I remember doing PT. Let's see. not much else that I can recall. I remember hearing that a Marine from one of the line companies had committed suicide,
Hmm.
and that was quite a shock. Um, but I most remember just kind of getting like psychologically ready to cross the LOD, which I went, um, and this is another thing I learned from listening to the podcast. Some people flew
Yes.
up into Iraq. I had no idea. I thought everybody convoyed. We
No.
convoyed.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a huge convoy. I mean, it was like it stretched for miles. Like, again,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, and we just escorted. I think it was like the air wing from Kuwait up to Taqadum Air Base, like in Anbar province, and I believe those guys would have probably been our air support during this deployment, right? Like in Ramadi.
Probably. I mean,
Um,
depending on what. I mean, there's two air wing units there, right? There was a fixed wing and rotary wing, and there was, different stuff. So,
mhm.
but
Okay, yeah.
We
So
we
they
had
like,
we had several tag-alongs that were
yep,
they were hitching rides basically for us. Because I know we dropped some
okay.
people off in like the Fallujah area and then Taqadum and
that's
I
right.
remember
anyways.
I remember stopping by Fallujah, and now that you mentioned Fallujah, one thing about being in Kuwait that I do remember is it's they didn't really know if we were going to be going to Fallujah or to Ramadi. I remember hearing word that we're either going to go to one of those two cities, and I had heard of Fallujah. Like, I think the worst part of Fallujah had yet to happen, but I had heard of Fallujah and that there was fighting there. I hadn't heard anything about Ramadi. So in my head, I was like, God, I hope we're gonna please be Fallujah, please be Fallujah. And then we end up in Ramadi, of course, and well, yeah, the rest is history. But like I do remember stopping by Fallujah in that convoy and yeah, dropping people off. I remember making a couple of stops, and that convoy, it was so cold. And we were like I think we were like the front truck. Like, it was a high back, and I was on the gun in the back of it, and it was freezing, like especially at night. And I remember we just kept driving, and I kept falling asleep like on my feet, like standing on the gun, and I would like start hallucinating like that I was seeing things in the road. And I remember think, okay, I guess that's why we do the crucible, huh? In boot camp.
Yeah.
That's it's not just to torture you, it's real. And so yeah, I remember, and then I remember the convoy. I think there was like an IED at some point, maybe near Fallujah. I remember we had to stop for a bit. Um but but yeah, and then we arrived in Ramadi. Um First impressions of the city, like, I mean, it, you know, it's so otherworldly, like being in a country, especially when you're like a 19-year-old like kid from Indiana or any part of the US, and you arrive in a country like 2004 Iraq, and it's like another planet, and you know very dirty, smells weird smells, people didn't look too friendly or happy. I remember dropping off, um I guess it must have been like Echo and or Golf, um in or we made a stop by Combat Outpost,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
I
just
think your convoy dropped off Echo. Ours dropped off Golf because
Right.
there's two
ah
separate convoys. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know golf was our
Yeah.
technical security or whatever. I have a note in my diary that I only kept for about 3 days, which is basically the drive up and
Yeah.
back.
Lieutenant Campbell, the guy
wow.
who wrote the Joker 1 book, was the second truck right behind us. That's really the only reason why I remember. I remember talking to him quite a lot. He was the second truck in the convoy. So,
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, that makes sense then. um what did you guys think about Combat Outpost the first time you saw it? I just thought it was dismal, and I was like, wow, I'm gonna
That's
live here for.
Yeah, that's accurate. It looked like a mechanic, like it looked like it was meant to be an auto shop. It didn't look like a place where people would live. That was what it looked
I
like to me.
totally thought the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't look like a place for people to like sleep and eat and, yeah, it was, and every time we went there, like for any reason, throughout this whole 7 month deployment, like I was always just like, man, I'm so glad I'm not in combat outpost. So we went there, and then I think we stopped by the snake pit as well, like right in front of Hurricane Point. I kind of remember going to the snake pit, which is also like not not great. And then finally we went to Hurricane Point. Not bad. Nice big wall, like just
Yeah.
defilade.
Mhm.
There's a palace. There's a river and a canal, like kind of forming the little triangle of Hurricane Point, and you're like, oh, this is not too bad. Okay. Uh, and yeah, we went to our hooch, and yeah, and then started the job. I didn't do the left seat, right seat stuff with the outgoing unit. This Florida, I learned from you guys, the Florida National Guard unit, which is why it was called Hurricane Point.
Mhm.
But I remember kind of rolling into that 5 week cycle of uh, you know, day taskable, day QRF, night taskable, night QRF, and then bridge duty, which is kind of your downtime, your down week. And yeah, we rolled into it. I think the NCOs and officers did the left seat, right seat stuff for better than I do, a couple days, maybe 3 or 4
like
days.
2-3 trips.
Yep. I think
Yeah.
I remember 2 days, and they rode with us one mission, not even one whole day, one mission. So
Right in the deep end. Crazy.
Well,
And you know what?
I was just going to say, and just to be very fair to the story, I mean, that we were setting out to have an exceptionally different mission too.
Mhm.
They were just doing route clearance, and we were going to be out in the city.
Yeah, one of our officers actually contacted us when we started this podcast. I don't know, a few episodes in, and kind of clarified that they were a skeletonized unit, and it was actually two units. It was the Florida National Guard was holding some, and then a group from the 82nd Airborne was holding Combat Outpost. But they were a squad reinforced, like they were not even a full platoon to hold this huge area. So literally, they were just trying to stay alive long enough to leave. Like there was, so I don't blame them. I wouldn't have stayed long either. Like be like, you guys got it. See you later.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. What a like kind of night and day type of transition for everybody. I mean, especially the locals of Ramadi, like those that were with us and against us. I mean, of course, like, they go from that very passive, hands off kind of approach from those units to us coming in and, trying to be that pretty, there's going to be Marines walking through your backyard. There's going to be, 2-4 guys everywhere all day, all night. And, you guys were senior to us, and, you guys, did more of you guys had kind of, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but like a lot more insight as to like the big picture type of stuff. I as like literally a PFC at 19, I was so new to the Marine Corps, like I didn't even know what was normal and what wasn't in the Marine Corps. Like you guys had been in for like years at this point. And so it was really like, I didn't really know what was going on for like a lot of that stuff, just because like I was just a PFC dismount in map 1, and big picture stuff like I don't know. I had a pretty easy job. Like basically just dismount when you need to, hold a corner for however many hours, and yeah, shoot anything that looks like it might be a bad guy or whatever. Basically, just do as you're told. Like so your guys' experience of it was, I'm sure quite different from mine, as well as a lot of the other like first deployment guys. Which, as you pointed out on the podcast, was like we were like a ton of like really new guys. So
Weapons
Well, I don't
company,
know.
weapons company was unique that they had a ton of senior and a ton of like you, brand new, and there
Mhm.
wasn't a lot of in between. There wasn't a lot of gray area in there. And we had a few people who had a deployment and a half under their belt, like you just mentioned, like Jax and Chico. Like they were, they kind of had a little bit of salt, but not quite the
They
same.
had like 6 months on you.
Yeah,
right.
and so it was a little different. They kind of knew what to expect, and they had like I don't know, like a middle management position to fill, right?
Yeah. And to us who had just come in, like even those guys, like even that little bit of salt that they had was, to us like, night and day. So um
But
it
you were
really
still figuring
does.
out the tempo of the organization itself. And I think, I mean, because I'll be honest, I don't think, at least from my perspective, I know Shane had a little bit more, he was being brought in on more mission briefings than I was, but like there wasn't a whole, I mean, we were inventing it as we were going, but also remembering that our mission changed while we were there. It evolved very dramatically, going from SASO to whatever they want to call after after April, but
Counterinsurgency, I guess. Yeah. Active.
counterinsurgency, right?
Yeah.
And then there was that weird hand, like then there was even another shift in focus when we realized that transition to hand things off to the Iraqi police and Iraqi ICDC wasn't going to work out. Where because that was part of our upswing. Also, was okay. Well, the SASO thing isn't working. Well, let's try to make sure that we're handing off power so we can eventually get out of here. And so that was the next swing from kind of like, okay, well, being friendly isn't really working. So let's give them their power back. And then that not working. And then what happened then subsequent to that. But the reason why I even bring all of that up is I, we didn't know. I mean, now for on your end, you were still trying to figure out how the Marine Corps worked, where we were very comfortable with that. And we're just used to being Semper Gumby and being like, all right, I don't know what the fuck is happening right
What's
now.
going on?
But I know what my mission is right now, and I know that as any good Marine, I'm here to take care of my men. I'm here to accomplish the mission, and go with God.
Yeah, and yeah, like you said, Semper Gumby. I mean, I even as like a lowly E2, I remember the whole like, here's some soccer balls, here's some candy. You're gonna go out to Route Nova, and you're gonna patrol, and you're gonna hand out stuff. I remember like interacting like with locals in general, like a lot in that first
Mhm.
month. I remember, yeah, giving out a lot of soccer balls, a lot of candy, a lot of people kind of like mobbing us, probably more than they should have. Although I do, even back then, I kind of remember thinking like, all right, if there's kids around me, maybe they won't, shoot at me if they want. But whatever. The people always kind of came out like when we were out. I remember I remember one time I had like a flashlight, like a little flashlight that I had like in my um tucked in my flak jacket. And I remember at one point, like there were so many kids around me. One kid came up and just snatched that thing out and just took off running, dude. That little
Uh-huh.
flashlight. It's like, yeah, whatever. He probably needs it more than me. But yeah, I do remember that kind of like, yeah, that Sasso like hearts and minds kind of stuff at first. Um, and kind of, I remember just a lot of monotonous kind of foot patrols, mounted patrols, a lot of stuff with IEDs started picking. It seems like it picked up a bit more, if I remember correctly. Um, I remember the first IED, like watching it explode, like watching EOD like make it explode. Or I didn't watch it, but like take it as soon as it, I took cover, but like as soon as it exploded, you pop up and see like the explosion, like the smoke or whatever that's there, and you're like, whoa, that was like a real like war explosion, like it's so crazy,
War
dude.
explosion. I love it.
Yeah, it's like that wasn't training. That was like that was meant to kill somebody, dude. So that'll lead me into our like never-ending interactions with EOD. I remember a lot of missions, especially at night, to like go get EOD from
Oh yeah.
Junction City. I hated those guys, dude. I was just, dude, I gotta go get a nut. Like, they have their own guns. Like, why do they need us to take them, man? Like, but that was whatever. That's part of the job. But yeah, just night and day doing a lot of EOD stuff, a lot of IED stuff. And I remember hearing a lot about um Fallujah kind of starting to pick up. I I don't know. I don't remember exactly when they killed those contractors, but I think you guys mentioned here it was like very early April, maybe the second.
March 30th.
Is that right?
March 31st.
Okay, March 31st. And I kind of remember being like, man, I wanted to get in some fights. I was like, man, I wish we were in Fallujah, dude. If I have to see EOD one more time, I want to freaking scream. uh, and then there started to be a little bit more kinetic gunfights. And the night that Morris was killed, really kind of hit home where it's like, oh no, like no, that's out there. That threat's out there.
Definitely.
Be careful what you wish for, and then it was a couple nights later that our platoon went and did a raid on the Farhan brothers, which thank you guys for telling me what their name was.
It was a little tighter timeline than that even. So, I mean, as far as Morris was wounded on the 4th, died on the morning of the 5th. And the next morning, we went back out on the 5th, but on the next morning of the 6th was when you guys went and did the cordon and knock for the Farhan brothers. Yeah.
That was an early morning raid. And I think we were on either night task. We had to have been on either night task or night QRF in the rotation. And that's why we were tasked with that mission. I remember that we had done other cordon and knocks before on other targets, high value dudes or whatever. So it wasn't like a new thing. It was already kind of routine to us. I remember kind of for the mission kind of briefing for that, like being told that like these guys we're going after are a lot higher than these other little fish we've been going after. These guys are the real deal. And I remember that raid. If I remember correctly, we chained we put a chain on a Humvee and put the other end of it on a front door and pulled the front door off this house.
Nice.
We did that a lot. Maybe I'm confusing that with this mission, but I'm pretty sure we had to like pull down a gate and then make entry that way.
Nice. That's the smart way to do it. Every other platoon just drove the Humvee through the gate and destroyed the Humvee. Yeah. So you guys were the smart platoon, apparently.
Yeah. That's Lieutenant Crawford, aeronautical engineer. That's what you get. So, and that raid, I remember that raid took a little while because we had trouble figuring out. I think we had trouble like positive IDing them, and the occupants of that house were claiming that they were bullshitting and saying that they were somebody else, and I know I say this every 2 minutes, but like if I remember correctly, it was on that mission that one of our terps was like pulled Lieutenant Crawford aside, or Staff Sergeant Drake or somebody. He was like, they're speaking with a dialect of that's different from who they say they are and where they say they're from. Like they are speaking like in a dialect that the Farhan brothers would be using. Like there was some mission where they like the Terp was actually came through and was like that. No, their dialect doesn't make sense. It doesn't jive
Huh.
with who they are, and that's how we were able to like be like, oh no, that you guys are the Farhan brothers, and you're you're trying to BS us right now. So yeah.
That's an interesting tidbit. I don't know that anybody else has told,
Yeah.
at least not me, that story. That's cool.
I hope that that was the mission that I was thinking of. I'm like really sure because I remember when after we wrapped that up and we took those guys to wherever we ended up taking them, we went back home, got in the rack, and then a couple hours later was April 6th. You know, they're like, get up, get out of the rack right now. It's going down. And I remember thinking like that has to be because these guys we picked up last night, like they were a
Right.
big deal. And now, you know, we kicked the hornet's nest. And yeah, I guess that's what happened. And so yeah, morning of April 6th, uh yeah, they get us out of the rack and we're like, what the hell? We're on night missions. What is this? And they're like, no, there's like there's action all over the city. There's firefights going on like in multiple different places. Get up, get kitted up, fire up the trucks and get down to the condition 1 lot. And I don't remember if we went condition 1. I don't think we did. But we lined up on that main road that went like from all like the line of hooches, like in front of the hooches down to the front, you know, entrance to Hurricane Point. And we flipped on the radio and we could hear. So Lieutenant Crawford was our platoon commander. I was in his truck. I was in the back seat, and he was a radio fanatic. He had his PRC 119 up front, which was like had all the like because we were, you know, weapons company. We were QRF for all the rest of the city. That whole AO, we were QRF. So we were monitoring always Fox, Echo, and Golf company channels or whatever. And so we were like flipping between like the channels, and we could hear like, you know, people in golf, guys in golf, like giving these situation reports, and then flip the next channel and you can hear a squad from Echoes, like, you know, in the action, they're talking about what's going on. And I had that, like, I also have like my personal radio. Lieutenant Crawford like made me take because he loved having like situational awareness, right? There was no Google Maps, so you had a radio, and he had two. So I had that other one in the back, the little mini PRC 119, the Foxtrot that you mentioned,
Yeah.
Monster. And yeah, I mean, it was me, Lieutenant Crawford, Hess, who you guys also had on the show, Peterson was in the gun, and then Doc Cornwell. So us five were in that lead vehicle from MAP 2, the first out of 6 Humvees. And yeah, we were just listening to that, like, and we were just like, stop there, ready to punch out and go wherever they needed us to go fight. And they just never, like, they like never gave us the word. I remember Lieutenant Crawford left at some point. He went to the company CP. He was gone forever. We see, like, I think it was MAP 2 fly up to the like condition 1 lot, go condition 1, I'll kit it up, you know, ready to go. And you just guys like you know, just took off out the front door, and we're like, what the hell? We're here. We're ready. Like we're ready to go now. You know, and yeah, we just spent like at least a few hours just listening to the radio and listening to like the desperation. I remember hearing on the radio that this kid Woodall from Echo Company had been missing. Like he was like like he had been separated from his platoon or something in a really, really bad gunfight, and he was like unaccounted for. Like, and we're just on the radio, like hearing this, and we're like, what? Like, what are we waiting for, man? Because we all just wanted to fight so bad. And it just never came. And that really, like, all of April 6th, like, yeah, like we didn't go out the whole day. We went out that night because again, we were on night missions. That was our role in the rotation. And so at night we went out to Gypsum and Nova with EOD, and there was just, of course, there's ordnance everywhere. Like there was RPGs lying around everywhere, and I don't know if there's also like IEDs or whatever, but like we spent like a good part of that night, out there with EOD, like clearing all this like unexploded ordnance. But at night, the shooting, was pretty much over. And yeah, I think that'll always be like kind of a bitter feeling, even though it wasn't any fault of our own. Like as a platoon, like that was just our role in the grand scheme of things. And but it sucked. I mean, yeah, we that day we really felt bad, just that the bad luck of not getting to go out that day. But yeah, and then again, April 7th, we did go out. We were kind of on the periphery of combat action with Golf Company. I remember that the morning of the 7th, we went out and we were like, okay, this is it. Now today we're gonna get some. And I remember going out to some location, and my memory of the layout of that city is not good. I remember going out somewhere in Golf's AO to meet up with a unit from Golf Company that was engaged in it. On the way there, driving down the street, and the streets are empty. There's no civilians out at all. But I just, in the middle of the road, was one like Iraqi dude like lying on his back with just like the top half of his head gone. And there was just blood all over the place. That was the first time I ever saw like a dead body in my life. And I was like, oh, wow. And you could hear the gunfire like cracking off. We get to this unit from Golf, somewhere in there, AO. But like the firefight was pretty much over at that point. I remember like dismounting and holding security on a road, and not seeing a whole lot to shoot at. I could hear it. I could hear gunshots everywhere, like off blocks away, like bouncing. I could hear the echo of them. But I was holding security on this empty street. This like long empty street was like in front of me. And like, buildings on either side of it and stuff. And we were there for like maybe half an hour, from what I remember. Nothing happening, no targets. And then at some point, Lieutenant Crawford was like, all right, hey, we're mounting up, we're going somewhere else. And so I get up from my knee and I go back to the Humvee, and somebody from another unit, I don't know what platoon or even what company, other Marines came in and took a position like where I was on that street. And as I'm kind of jogging to the Humvee, like I hear gunfire behind me, and I look around, and like there's a taxi like flying at these Marines who just took my spot, and they're all lighting this taxi up. And I'm like, dude, I just wanted to like shoot somebody today, man. Like, is that wrong? What's wrong, man? Like, what I gotta do can kill somebody today, dude. But yeah.
The other name for this podcast is called Marine Psychoses. Yeah.
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 Yes, we're an unwell breed.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, where else are you gonna get to do that?
Nope, it's very true. It's very true.
Yeah.
Like striking out at the bar, like
Yeah.
all I want to do is get laid, man. It goes,
I just want to do, man. Let's get it in, dude. I just want to get my rocks off, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're like, man, I want that one lined up, and nothing became of it. Swing and a miss. But yeah, that was April 7th, man. Like, that's all I remember from April 7th. Just being so close, you could like, you could feel it, but not getting into, I when I saw that taxi, I kind of was like, man, should I shoot like just one round just so I can say like there was Marines like in the way. I was gonna like, do something that reckless at that moment. But I that was the 7th, 8th and 9th. We went out, did the bug hunt stuff that you guys have talked about here.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happened. I remember I remember of course like the knee taking, the security stuff, in the supreme heat of Ramadi in summer. And I remember the loudspeakers and the shit talking, from I think coming from the mosques, and then also maybe I think some of our guys were yelling to them to
Yeah.
come out
So
and fight.
we had the two Army. I don't remember the exact name of the vehicles, but basically they were just Humvees with giant speakers on top of them. And it was one of the interpreters who was saying multiple things. And I don't know if you had an interpreter with you, but we had somebody who spoke Arabic with us who was like, oh no, they're calling them cowards, calling them out to the street. You're not man enough to fight us. Just, all sorts of things. You're dogs, like multiple insults. And then also at one point, Captain Weiler taking the mic and yelling over the mic, "You guys are a bunch of cowards. We'll fuck you up." Like all kind. I don't remember what he said, but I remember him yelling. I remember his voice specifically, and I was like, "Oh God, well, all right, that's a thing." So
That's great. Oh man, yeah. What a great officer. What a great leader. I love it.
yeah.
Like that kind of like rage, and like it's universal. You don't need to speak Arabic to like for them to know what you want.
Very true.
Yeah. So and then so 8 and 9, not much happens with us. Although sadly, I think it was an engineer attached to us was killed on the 9th by our IED, I think, at Gypsum and Nova. And then April 10th, county, is that Operation County Fair?
So County Fair was the 8th, and the first bug hunt was the 10th. It's the other way around.
Oh,
but that's okay.
I got them mixed. Okay,
They look the same. It was a giant coordinate search.
Yeah, dude, when you're an E2 in the Marine Corps, you're just like, I don't know anything except what I'm told to know. So yeah, that day, again, we're on the periphery of the real fighting. We were in Echoes AO. We were doing the cordon. We had a cordon. We had some kind of field of fire, some kind of like position that we were securing for in support of a larger operation with Echo. And a unit from Echo, real close to us, got engaged. I remember hearing tons of gunshots. This is in the Sophia district, so this isn't like as much as like densely populated. Like this is kind of a little bit more agricultural, like open fields and stuff. But you can hear gunshots going down within like a kilometer of us, I guess. But again, nothing direct. I didn't take any kind of incoming fire that day. Of course, I wanted to. I wanted to go out rounds off, but there was nothing. I do remember like being out in like holding a security position like across a field. There was like a field and maybe a couple of farmhouses way off in the distance, and I was taking a position in front of like an agricultural like drainage ditch in front of a big open field, and behind me was a Humvee, and the gunner of the Humvee was Harrison, and he was on a 50 cal, and there was nothing going on that I could see at all. But I do remember all of a sudden this like concussion of like like pressure, like hitting my body in this like crazy, like loud booming noise. And I was like, holy, like what is that? Like, I thought we were getting mortar or something out of nowhere. And it was Harrison, like just going to town on this 50 cal and I was like, Harrison, what are you shooting at? And like, he's like, oh, I think I saw like a something. I was like, I didn't see it, but like, I didn't see anything, but it scared the crap out of me. That part, man. If you're like right under a 50 caliber,
Oh
when it
yeah,
goes
yeah.
off, like, whoa, yeah, that'll wake you up. I remember, and this is all like all of that deployment is like memory soup for me now. Like, I'm pretty sharp up here, but like going back that far in my life, like it's a lot of. Yeah, a lot of just mixed, like kind of like almost like photographic images. So a lot of this stuff I'm trying to piece together. But I do remember at some point watching, you know, Cobra attack helicopters flying around overhead, wherever those Echo Company guys were, and they were just unloading like rockets and machine guns. I remember seeing them. It was quite the show. They were just going to town on wherever these insurgents were. And when our little operation was all finished and we were like going somewhere, not back home, but we were going out somewhere else in the Sophia district, to kind of like, I think, mop up and clean up some kind of operations in the early afternoon. I remember seeing like truckloads of like high-back Humvees full of like dead Iraqis that were probably, it looked like they had been hit by some pretty big ordnance. They were all like blasted apart and like burnt, and like they didn't even look like freaking human beings anymore. Like highbacks full of them. And because I think we had to like collect up the surge and stuff.
That was the early, our early. Well, we did that until I don't know, summer, middle of summer, some point. Because I remember this is fast forwarding slightly, but I remember a different mission midsummer where you guys had like several dead bodies on the hoods of Humvees, like driving them to checkpoints. And I was like, why are we doing this? This makes literally no sense. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, that's a very vivid memory for me too. Just the giant stacks of dead bodies and being like, okay, I don't know what we're doing with this, but this is hundreds of people and pieces of people.
Pieces, yeah. Like, and this I'll get to that story about the dead Iraqi on the hood. Like, I mean, like, it looks like a dead deer that you had hunted, and like, you know, how is that any more respectful than just leaving it in the street? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's certainly not tactically sound to be doing that, but it yeah, it was what it was. And then so, you know, that week in April came and went. And then things kind of went back to, I think, more of like the whole IED and mortars. Mortars, as you guys well remember, like were such an integral part of that deployment. I remember, you know, the I called it like the Iraqi alarm clock. Like every morning, almost every morning, like
Yeah.
I remember waking up and hearing like out, but it was like, you know, Hurricane Point was so big, and like behind the hooches there was like a ton of sand and like empty space, and then the Euphrates River, and they were always hitting like out in the Euphrates River for the most part. I mean, so this is all through the deployment. You got the mortars, and there were a couple of times when they must have had some kind of spotter or something inside our base, because there was a couple of mornings where it was like you hear like the distant like, and you're like, leave me alone, I'm going back to bed, and then they just got closer, like, and I remember a couple mornings, man, there was like, it sounded like they were like, it almost sounded like they were walking them on, and like they came really close to like hitting the hooch a couple times. I remember like bolting up in my bed and being like, oh shit, like, and then diving under the rack, you know, thinking like as if that's gonna like, you know, help or anything. And like I know one mortar round hit like right outside our hooch, and our hooch had like little shrapnel holes all through the wall. I think Matt Jacks had been out there on post, like, because it happened where, and if it happened like in the front yard, like the front yard of the hooch, where we would keep the Humvees, like all 6 of them, like lined up, ready to go, and you keep a fire watch out there just because it's the Marine Corps. And he was out there, and it was like he had just come inside to like get his relief on fire watch, and that like mortar round landed out there and like put a bunch of shrapnel holes in the wall. I think it took out the tires on a couple of our Humvees as well.
I was gonna say, to my memory, your hooch got mortared 3 times, and there was the scars on the front were the worst one, but you got hit in the back twice that I can remember.
Yeah, there was a couple in the back as well, and I remember hearing them like they would make that sound that like whistling noise, like in the movies. I remember a couple times, like when they mortared us, I was on a working party out sometime in the afternoon, so I was like outside, and I remember hearing that like that whistling sound coming in, like you like died and hit the ground. But like for the most part, they couldn't really do much.
If you like what you've heard, this is a multi-part episode. Make sure you listen to the rest of the story.